Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to Government House, Canberra. My name is Paul Singer and I'm the Governor-General's Official Secretary, and as this badge signifies, I'm also the Secretary of the Order of Australia, whose Council recommends appointments and awards in the Order's General Division to the Governor-General, who is Chancellor of the Order of Australia and Principal Knight of the Order. I am also the Secretary to the Australian Bravery Decorations Council, the body which makes recommendations to the Governor-General for bravery awards. I'd like to particularly acknowledge among our distinguished guests here this morning, Senator David Smith, representing the Leader of the Opposition, Vice Admiral Michael Noonan, Chief of Navy, Brigadier Wade Stoddart, representing the Chief of Army, Air Vice Marshal Gavin Turnbull, representing the Chief of Air Force and Mrs Jackie Turnbull, Mr Peter Woolcott, Commissioner of the Australian Public Service Commission, and Mr Carl Kent, representing the Commissioner of the Australian Federal Police, and Mrs Patricia Keller, representing the ACT Branch Chair of the Order of Australia Association. Ladies and gentlemen, the Australian honour system provides a wonderful mechanism through which we as a nation can recognise and celebrate ordinary people who do extraordinary things. Since its inception in 1975, almost 400,000 people have been recognised for their meritorious bravery, military or national service. The Order of Australia is the principal means of recognising outstanding service, and it's important to note that nominations come from all areas of the community. Anyone can and is encouraged to nominate. Today is a special day, not only for the recipients, but also for their families, friends and communities. It is a day when we celebrate a diverse range of impressive achievements and service. As staff at Government House, my colleagues and I are privileged to play a small part in the recognition and celebration of that achievement. I hope we can help make today an occasion that you'll all recall with pride for a long time to come. Shortly, I'll invite you to stand as Their Excellencies the Governor-General and Lady Cosgrove enter the room. Please remain standing for the singing of the first verse of the National Anthem. You're all encouraged to join along with words on page 3 in your program. The investiture will then begin and proceed in the order listed in your programs. After I read their names and citations, the recipients will enter the room from the doorway on my right, and after they've been invested, will leave by the centre aisle to take their seats at the back of the room. At this point, you may wish to show your appreciation with a short applause as each recipient leaves the drawing room. At the conclusion of the investiture, the Governor-General will say a few words. He'll then leave the room and I'll invite recipients to join both him and Lady Cosgrove for a formal photograph at the state entrance stairs. To assist with the movement of recipients and Their Excellencies to that photo, could I invite all remaining guests to wait briefly until such time as we invite you to the dining room for refreshments with Their Excellencies. So please relax and enjoy this very special occasion. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of Her Excellencies the Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia and Lady Cosgrove. Australians, oh let us rejoice, for we are young and free, with golden soil and wealth of toil, our home is girt by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty rich and rare. In history's page let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains and let us sing, advance Australia fair. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please be seated. Your Excellency, to be presented with the insignia of his appointment as a companion in the General Division, Mr Peter Barton. For eminent service to Australia-Papua New Guinea relations, particularly in the oil and gas industry, and to social and economic initiatives. Mr Barton has made an immense contribution to Australia and Papua New Guinea's resources sector. His efforts have supported the economic growth and development of Papua New Guinea through his leadership and facilitated strong partnerships with joint venturers, government and communities at all levels. He's demonstrated great compassion and altruism through his involvement in supporting health, leadership, education and women's protection and empowerment in Papua New Guinea. Mr Barton is a wonderful ambassador for Australia. Mr Peter Barton appointed a companion of the Order.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Now, just come around here for a tick. The good people of Papua New Guinea and the government, of course, extended to you in 2008, I think, a commander of the British Empire.
They did.
They did. And look, you've been, as the citation said, a wonderful figure up there for a long time. You've been CEO or managing director of petroleum and minerals companies, but also you've been involved with health and arts and a lot of other, showing the complete man that you are. And I think you were named as amongst Harvard's most successful, top 100 most successful chief executive officers in the world. Is that right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, today your nation says you're a very fine Australian and we're very proud of you. Well done.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Appointed a companion in the General Division, Professor Rhonda Gilley, for eminent service to the advancement of social equity, particularly to the health and welfare of people with a disability and to the community. Professor Gilley has been given dedicated service to health development, disability, ageing and social policy in Australia. Her broad knowledge of key issues affecting the most disadvantaged in our community and her compassion and commitment to social change and social justice are evident through the roles she has undertaken. She's been committed to empowering community organisations and has striven to strengthen the engagement between the not-for-profit sector, education and community organisations to achieve better outcomes for the wider community. Professor Gilley's efforts are deserving of this nation's highest recognition. Professor Rhonda Gilley appointed a companion of the Order.
Don't try and manoeuvre that. I think we can do it this way, just at the moment.
Thank you.
Now, you're in exactly the right position for me to sort of have at you. You were an AO in 91, is that right? And now, with this honour, you've got Australia's highest honour. You've been a wonderful advocate for people with disabilities and people broadly in the health spectrum of our lives. I think you were the founder or co-chair or chairman or chief executive of about 9 different bodies associated with health and the upliftment of disabled folk. You're presently a board member on the NDIA, I think, is that correct?
Just resigned.
Just finished. Oh, their loss is our gain. You're here today. There's a board meeting on. You're not out of it. In any event, that's a wonderful thing for you to sort of capstone your long working life. But you are a role model and a wonderful advocate for Australians, and we're proud of you today. Congratulations.
Appointed a companion in the General Division, Mr Carrillo Gantner, for eminent service to the community through professional involvement in and philanthropic support for the performing and visual arts and to Australia-Asia cultural exchange. Mr Gantner has been outstanding in his enduring commitment to Australian art and culture. His dedication to developing cultural links between Australia and Asia has led to a greater understanding of the arts in our region. Mr Gantner's influence and leadership has made a major and lasting difference to the whole community. He continues to make an outstanding contribution, not only through his commitment to the arts, but through his philanthropic accomplishments. Mr Gantner's commitments and his achievements are of the highest order. Mr Carrillo Gantner appointed a companion of the Order.
Good to see you again.
Thank you, sir.
Just arrange that a bit. There we go.
Thank you.
Now, you're another, around here they want to be able to see you. Another person who's previously been recognised, I think, with the AO in 2001, and then you were the Victorian Senior Citizen of the Year in 2008. Have I got that right?
I think that's right.
And you've been the moving light in the Melbourne Arts Festival 09 to 14, is that right?
Yes.
And in terms of your engagement in Asia, I think you are the driving force behind 4 separate organisations which are to do with Australia's relationships into Asia.
I think you're very generous.
That's what I'm here for. But we all congratulate you on being recognised with Australia's highest award. Well done.
Thank you.
Appointed a companion in the General Division, Ms Jennifer Roe, for eminent service to literature as an author, particularly in the children's fiction and adult mystery genres. Ms Roe is one of the most successful, prolific, versatile and respected writers in Australia. Her impact over more than 30 years on the success of Australians' children literature, both in Australia and internationally, has been immense. It has her influence on encouraging children to read. Her books are a testament to her exceptional storytelling ability and her understanding of children. Her success is evident through the multiple accolades she has received. Ms Roe's hard work and dedication to her craft are an inspiration to the nation as a whole. Ms Jennifer Roe appointed a companion of the Order.
Hello. There we go. X marks the spot. There we go.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Now, you broke into the world of children's books with Something Special in 1984. That was the name of the book.
Yes.
And then
right.
Pigs Might Fly in 86.
That's right.
I'll bet that one was a big seller.
Yes,
Yeah.
it did.
And that's one of 16 either books or series of books for kids, and then there's early readers, kids books for children. And I think you're also now doing adult fiction, crime fiction.
Some, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
But,
What's your favourite character in your crime fiction?
oh, Verity Birdwood, I guess.
Verity Birdwood. Right, you heard it from the lady herself. Get that one. We congratulate you. You're obviously such an adornment to our cultural life, and we thank you so much for your contribution.
Thank you.
Well done.
Appointed an officer in the General Division, Mr Gary Humphries, for distinguished service to the Parliament of Australia and to the Legislative Assembly of the Australian Capital Territory. Mr Humphries is a passionate Canberran and a steadfast advocate for the rights of Territorians in determining their own future. He gave outstanding service to the Legislative Assembly and to the Senate for over 25 years. He has generously given his support and time to a range of community organisations, including the establishment of the Helicopter Rescue Service. Mr Humphries continues to make a significant contribution to Canberra and to Australia. Mr Gary Humphries appointed an officer of the Order.
Good to see you back here.
Thank you very much to have me.
Okay. Now, one of your many visits over many years into Government House, but perhaps this was, for us, the most joyous of your visits. You've been in the ACT government. You were the Chief Minister of the ACT government, and then from that's in the early 2000s, and then you translated into the Australian Senate, where you were Senator from 03 till 2013. Mm-hmm. And you are sort of one of the many Mr Canberras in terms of one of the most identifiable figures in Canberra. You remain very active in community organisations of all sorts. I believe you're a solicitor by background.
I am, yep.
And I believe, yeah, you still the Deputy President of the Administrative Appeals Tribunal?
I am indeed, yes.
So you're continuing to live a wonderful life for the people of Canberra and for the people of Australia. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Appointed a member in the General Division, Professor Francis Bongiorno, for significant service to tertiary education in the field of history. Professor Bongiorno has made a significant contribution to the field of Australian history, in particular to the study of our labour and culture. He is an exemplary academic with a deep commitment to providing the highest quality education in history and to enhancing the standards and impact of scholarship. Professor Bongiorno's commitment has contributed to the enlivening the exchange of ideas in Australian society. Professor Francis Bongiorno appointed a member of the Order.
G'day. Just stand on that X there so I can reach to you. Well, now we're good? Okay. Now just move here. You're the incumbent Professor of History at ANU, one of them. One of them, yeah. But you've had several stints overseas. I understand that you had a couple of years at Cambridge and then a longer stint at King's College London. And you've also been most active in writing historical works. But there was one that, this is a family show and we're on TV, The Sex Lives of Australians. Others can ask you about that later. But we congratulate you on your work within the history realm and thank you for what you're contributing. Thank you
Thank you very much.
Appointed a member in the General Division, Ms Linda Cribben, for significant service to the law and to the legal profession in the Australian Capital Territory. Ms Cribben's consistent contribution to the law, human rights and social justice is exceptional. For over 30 years, she has demonstrated her dedication in a number of senior executive roles. She has an interest in the ongoing development of the legal profession and has personally mentored a large number of young lawyers. Ms Cribben has throughout her career demonstrated dedication and commitment to the ideals of social justice. Ms Linda Cribben appointed a member of the Order.
Yes, then. Thank you very much. Well done. So you are a mighty figure within the legal fraternity here in the ACT. You've been in the Human Rights Commission, the Civil and Administrative Affairs Tribunal. I think you were the president of that for a while. You've been president or chair of the Law Institute here in Canberra, is it?
No, Australian Institute of Administrative Law.
I beg your pardon. So it's a national body.
Yes.
And that was allowed you to be based here in Canberra?
Yes.
Well, I see that your activities are undiminished. You continue to be a wonderful role model for all lawyers and indeed an advocate for people who desperately need our support. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Appointed a member in the General Division, Associate Professor Andrew Miller, for significant service to medicine as a dermatologist and to professional organisations. Dr Miller is a highly respected dermatologist who has made major contributions to dermatology locally, at a national level and across the Pacific region. He has undertaken a number of professional leadership roles, has been tireless in his service to education, policy and reform, and is a superb role model for medical students. Dr Miller is committed to providing safe and quality care and strives for continuous learning and innovation in the area of dermatology. Associate Professor Andrew Miller appointed a member of the Order.
Hello. There we go. I think you're the president of the Australian College of Dermatologists. Is that still the case?
Still the case.
Yep.
30 more sleeps.
30 more sleeps and then, oh, I've got something to say about. Now, of course, you've also been a member of the college for a very long time. Now you're the president of the college. You're the professor of dermatology at the hospital, as I understand it. Mm-hmm. You've also been president in the AMA for a very long time. You're and president of the ACT chapter of the AMA. Are you still on the council of the National AMA?
Still, yes.
Okay, you are therefore, as I've said with some others, an absolute role model for medicos, not only here in the ACT but further afield, and obviously in your speciality you are most eminent. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
appointed a member in the General Division, Dr Kathleen Price, for significant service to education, particularly through Indigenous teaching initiatives. Dr Price has dedicated her life to Indigenous education and has been a transformative educator, scholar and educational leader in universities and schools. She has dedicated time to mentoring Indigenous educators across Australia. The inclusion of Indigenous perspectives in the Australian curriculum for all teachers is a legacy of her invaluable contributions over the last 3 decades. Dr Price's achievements are to be celebrated. Dr Kathleen Price appointed a member of the Order.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm very well.
Thank you.
Here we go. Now, just pop here for a minute. You've been doing this for a very long time. You were in the Commonwealth Department of Education as one of the officials supervising policy towards Indigenous education in the 80s, was it? But you've been working on that and about 13 other programs. I counted them up on your biographical note, and it's legion. I couldn't begin to memorise them all, but they've all been significant and always stepping forward, and so much so that you were the Citizen of the Year in the ACT not so long ago. Is that correct?
The Senior Australian.
Senior Australian, yeah. Well, you never go to ladies' seniority, if I could put it that way. But we are proud of you, and thank you for being here today to be acknowledged by Australia. Well done.
Thank you.
Appointed a member in the General Division, Professor David Widdowson, for significant service to higher education in the field of international trade and customs. Professor Widdowson is an internationally recognised specialist in customs and international trade facilitation. His work has addressed the challenges of today's rapidly changing global trading environment. He's been extraordinarily persistent and innovative in the face of many obstacles. He has worked to assist developing countries establish rigorous excise practices and has contributed to the education of customs and excise agencies around the world. Professor Widdowson's outstanding work is to be commended. Professor David Widdowson appointed a member of the Order.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. There we go.
Lovely. Thank you.
So you've had some official roles with the Commonwealth, particularly with the customs side of our enforcement and excise activities, in compliance and those sorts of areas, as well as your academic roles. And your academic roles mean, I think at Charles Sturt and at University of Canberra, you set up actual departments or faculties of customs and excise examinations. Is that right?
That's right.
And you're also, I think, a visiting professor in Sri Lanka,
Indeed.
Germany,
Yes.
and Latvia.
Indeed.
Right, we've got that part of the world covered. But this shows that there is a true, profound expert. You are not only a guiding light within Australia, but your work is valued internationally. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appointed a member in the Military Division, Commodore Miko, for exceptional service to the Royal Australian Navy in the field of maritime logistics. Commodore Miko has provided sustained exceptional service in a number of significant senior maritime logistics roles. He demonstrated outstanding vision and strong direction to adapt the Navy Logistics Branch and the maritime logistics community to meet the challenges presented by the Navy shipbuilding program. During international postings and liaison officer appointments, Commodore Miko demonstrated outstanding diplomatic skills, advancing Australia's interests with the United States and other allies. Commodore Michael Miko appointed a member of the Order.
Good morning. Was that doorway enough for you? Did you?
Just fine.
Pop in here. You enlisted in the Navy in 1982, therefore you are a bit older than you look. You look very youthful. You are the sort of the steward of Navy's logistics, and you did that also as a liaison job to the Joint Chief of Staff, Chairman Joint Chiefs of Staff Group Logistics in the United States at the Pentagon. And therefore a mighty effort because of our profound involvement with the United States, particularly in areas that relate to maritime warfare, where the interaction and the interdependence is extraordinary. And as any senior officer will tell you, if you've got your logistics right, you're more than halfway there. The professionalism and the energy of the deployed force will be magnificent, but they must be supported. You're doing that for our deployed forces, and you're doing it now as Navy goes through its greatest modernisation program in any of our lifetimes. Congratulations.
Appointed a member in the Military Division, Colonel John Harvey, for exceptional service to the Australian Defence Force in legal capability development and structural reform. Colonel Harvey's exceptional service in developing and implementing significant reforms has enhanced professional standards, legal capability and retention of legal officers. In particular, he restructured the Australian Army Legal Corps by integrating its officers into the Army's functional command structure. He aligned the provision of legal support with the requirements of commanders and created a more responsive and effective legal service. Colonel Harvey's ongoing contribution to the development of legal capability resulted in sustained and significant improvements. Colonel John Harvey appointed a member of the Order.
Hello, John. Good to see you again.
Nice to see you.
Here we go.
Thank you very much.
Joined the Army a very long time ago, and not only a very experienced service person, but a fellow deeply involved in the cultural life, the sporting life of ACT. We knew each other in the military, of course, but I particularly want to, just as a side note, refer to his dedication to cricket and that sort of thing here in the ACT. Just a Canberran and a wonderful one. But you did redesign the organisation, manning and principles of work of the legal side of the Australian Army, and that permeates, of course, just by osmosis into the other services, and that's the way of it. But your reorganisation project was crucial and has resulted in a really wonderful cohort of expert women and men in the Defence Force, and not least the Army legal area, who can keep deployed forces focused and lawful and law-abiding, and that's such an important thing for the reputation of our forces. And as a final aside, are you well?
Well, thank you.
Because he's the holder of my will. Congratulations.
Awarded the medal in the General Division, Mr Stephen Anderson, for service to the air conditioning and refrigeration industry through the development of environmental policy. Mr Anderson has been involved in the development of the refrigeration and air conditioning industry in Australia over the past 30 years. He was the catalyst for innovation and positioned the industry to work collaboratively with government and to take the steps necessary to deliver improved environmental outcomes. Mr Anderson is most worthy of this nation's thanks and recognition. Mr Stephen Anderson awarded the Medal of the Order.
How are you?
Very well. And yourself? You've been very busy today.
Yeah, here we go. Come out here. You've been doing this since the late, well, certainly very active, late 80s, and you deal with the bulk supply, the whole chain of supply of bulk refrigerants and the equipment that uses that refrigerant. And you've started Arctic is the way. It's an acronym, but it supplies a licensing regime for people in Australia who deal in refrigeration. And it's a standards and licensing arrangement. And I think since you conceived of this, there are now 87,000 participants in the licensing scheme. which sounds like to me it's pretty national and obviously widely embraced. Congratulations, and we encourage you to keep up this wonderful work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awarded the medal in the General Division, Air Commodore Philip Byrne, for service to the community through a range of organisations. Air Commodore Byrne has been and continues to be a committed Rotarian. He has been a constant supporter of a wide range of community projects, both in his local area of the Australian Capital Territory and more broadly in Australia and internationally. Air Commodore Byrne's involvement in the community is most commendable. Air Commodore Philip Byrne awarded the Medal of the Order.
Hi, Phil. How are you? That's nice, you entered the Air Force in 1970, had a very long and distinguished career, and as we heard from the official secretary, when you retired from the Air Force, it was in the rank of Air Commodore, but then no gap, no pause, straight into what a lot of people do and we all admire, and that is community service with Rotary. You're a Paul Harris Fellow. I think you've, 10 years or so ago, you were, perhaps not that long, you were president of your Rotary Club. You're involved still with Rotary, of course, but you're also involved with Food Bank, and I think you've been on the board of Defence Health for a period some years ago. In all respects, you're the person we all want to be when we're looking to make our whole of life commitment to our community. We want to be like Phil. Well done. Thank you, sir. Well done.
Awarded the medal in the General Division, Mr Richard Cordy, for service to rugby union. Mr Cordy has played a vital role in rugby union football in the Australian Capital Territory for over 3 decades. He's been involved as a player, administrator, director and advisor. His expertise played a significant role in ensuring that the quality of the game and the manner in which it is played is of the highest standard in our region. Local sport would not operate nearly as well if it were not for the efforts of people like Mr Cordy. Mr Richard Cordy awarded the Medal of the Order.
Just there. Thanks a lot. Good on you. How are you today?
Good, thank you.
There we go. All good?
Thanks.
Face this way. Come out here a bit. Not a halfback. Neither was I. You were coach of the Brumbies and you were an officer.
No, I was on the
Oh, not Brumbies, the Vikings, I should
I
say.
was tied up with the Vikings for a long time.
Tied up with the Vikings. I would have tied you up too. I wouldn't want to let you get into the ruck. So the Vikings, but you're on the board of the Brumbies.
I was for a number of years, yes.
And ACT and Southern Districts Rugby Union for about 17 years
something like that,
on the
yes,
board there.
yeah.
So we're looking here at this gentleman, obviously a pillar of the community, but his passion and his soul and his life go into sport in the ACT and near districts. So we're very proud of you, and your community recognise you today.
Thank you very much.
Well done, mate. Thanks.
Awarded the medal in the General Division, Mrs Colleen Graham, for service to public administration. Mrs Graham has served with distinction throughout her public service career, both in Australia and overseas. She's been a mentor to many and takes the time to share her knowledge and experience, build leadership capability and provide timely and appropriate advice. Mrs Graham's contribution is acknowledged by senior members of current and former governments and stakeholders outside of government. Mrs Colleen Graham awarded a Medal of the Order.
Hello, how are you?
Well, thanks.
There we go.
Thank you.
Just think of it. Public service in 1975, there's the commissioner there, he's taking furious notes. But you've been an executive assistant to a number of most significant heads of mission jobs around the world. UK, US, Belgium,
And Geneva.
Geneva, And now, did we get the lot then?
Yes, we did a couple of Brussels and a couple of Washingtons.
A couple of Brussels and a couple of Washingtons. This is hardship. No, it's actually a lot of work because if anybody keeps the dear old High Commissioner or Ambassador on the straight and narrow, it's the EA in terms of their very busy programs. And you've done that. You are the doyen of all the senior executive assistants around Canberra. You're presently, I think, the EA to the head or the Secretary of Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade.
Yes.
Please give her our best. But today, it's your turn, and we congratulate you.
Thank you very much.
Awarded the medal in the General Division, Ms Susan Healy, for service to people with a disability. Ms Healy has been an advocate for people with a disability in the Australian Capital Territory for over 50 years. Her wealth of knowledge and her commitment to working with people with disabilities, their families and carers has been absolute. Ms Healy has given so much of herself to so worthy a cause. Ms Susan Healy awarded a Medal of the Order.
Yeah, thanks very much. Now, I think you were a teacher from about 1962 to about 2003, is that about right? And you were, this is a special note to me, you were Deputy Principal at Commodore School for a number of years.
That's correct.
And Principal of Cranley for a while. And then, but you are, I think, still involved with a lot of, at least 7 regional groups, all to do with people with disabilities. So I counted them up, but I couldn't possibly recite them all. Is that about right?
That is about right.
Well, people are looking at a person whose entire life has been in that space of service to the community. Congratulations. Thank you.
Awarded the medal in the General Division, the late Mr Colin Holmes, to be accepted by his widow, Mrs Enid Holmes. Mr Holmes served the Canberra community as an active member of Rotary for over 25 years. During this time, he undertook a large number of club and district positions and devoted a substantial amount of his own time to the organisation's charitable activities. Mr Holmes' contributions are deserving of our praise and recognition. Mrs Enid Holmes accepts the award of the Medal of the Order on behalf of her late husband, Mr Colin Holmes.
Here we go. I'll give that to you. You hold it like this so when we turn it's on display. Just don't tip it all the way over. Just a little bit. There we go.
Oh, well, that's the way.
Now, your late husband, of course, was a dynamo. He was, we heard about Rotary, but he was also involved with the Canberra Symphony Orchestra for a large number of years. He is a wonderful figure of memory now, and he's up there looking down and most proud that today you're seeing him honoured by his community for his wonderful contribution.
I think so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awarded the medal in the General Division, Mr Peter Langhorne, for service to Parliament and politics at the state and national level. Mr Langhorne has provided exemplary service to the Australian Government both through public policy and the National Party of Australia. He is a person of great integrity, with a strong commitment to making a difference to the lives of Australians in rural and regional areas. Mr Langhorne's contributions have brought enduring benefit to the Australian community. Mr Peter Langhorne awarded a Medal of the Order.
Okay, thanks. How are you? There we go. Just making sure it's out of your pocket. Yes. Here we go. So you had a pretty active and important career in Austrade, but in particular we're remembering today your very long-term supporter to people like the Deputy Prime Minister, to Ron Boswell when he was senior government senator Yep. And of course, to the Prime Minister John Howard in 07.
Yes.
So we're into an election mode as of today. So the Senator's sitting here getting ready to leap out later. But you can recall the pressure and the focus that you've had to have in each of those jobs.
Very much so.
Well, that is an entirely honourable and legitimate part of our political machinery. And today, your community says thank you for the work you did. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Awarded the medal in the General Division, Ms Mandy Larson, for service to the community through Lifeline Canberra. Ms Larson is a compassionate leader who is well respected by colleagues across the Lifeline network. She's contributed in tangible ways by supporting the volunteers and the organisation to achieve better results. Ms Larson continues to innovate and look for new ways to improve the service Lifeline Canberra offers to the community and embodies Lifeline's values. Ms Mandy Larson awarded the Medal of the Order.
Hello, good morning. Yes. Now, of course, everybody knows Lifeline. We know it by reputation, and for some of us it might have actually touched our lives in some way, and we therefore would appreciate this lady as a sort of one of those angels on the end of the telephone. You've been in charge of service delivery at the local Lifeline since 03, I think.
Well, yes, I've been around since 03, yeah. In charge of it for about 10 years.
Okay, well, we won't quibble about a couple of years here and there. But you are, in particular, looking after the crisis telephone service right at the moment, aren't you?
Yes.
So we all sort of intuitively understand the importance of this to people at a time of really intense need, which is dangerous to their well-being. And who do they ring but Lifeline? We have here now the community saying well done, and please, through you to all at Lifeline, please congratulate them for their work and please encourage them to keep it up. We rely on them.
Thank you.
All the best.
Awarded the medal in the General Division, Mr Peter Munday, for service to the community through charitable organisations. Mr Munday is well known and respected throughout the Canberra community for his philanthropic work. His desire to help and make a difference is evident in the way he becomes personally involved in each project. He is particularly passionate about supporting adolescents. Mr Munday's achievements and passion for improving the welfare of others is an inspiration to us all. Mr Peter Munday awarded the Medal of the Order.
Good morning.
Good morning.
There we go. That's right. Now, you're probably as well known to people here as you have been or were for a long while the dealer principal at Lennox.
Yep.
And you sort of got this passion for philanthropy. I think you're on the board of the Canberra Hospital Foundation.
Yes.
Okay. And I think through your particular efforts, there's at the women and children's part of the hospital, there is this there's a children's ward or a youth ward, and then there's lots of amenity type things there, like a dining area, and that sort of thing.
Yep.
And you specifically said, let's do this a room at a time and get it right.
Yep.
Well, that I think is just an emblem of your vast philanthropy over 30 years in Canberra.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All the
Thank
best.
you.
Awarded the medal in the General Division, Ms Vivian Pierce, for service to education. Ms Pierce has had a long and active involvement in the promotion and development of public education. She's been a passionate supporter of improvements for students with disabilities and those from migrant and refugee backgrounds. Ms Pierce is to be commended for her efforts. Ms Vivian Pierce awarded the Medal of the Order.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There you go. Now, you've been involved as a close supporter and contributor to the ACT education function. I think you chaired the council of PNC Council. But, and you've also been involved advising on other aspects of education to the ACT government. You're still active on at least 3 PNCs yourself, as a member of those PNCs.
Oh yes, got to get the democracy sausages
Yeah,
going.
there we go. The democracy sausages, you heard it here. Girralang, Colleen, and
Lake
Ginninderra. So we all know that geography, and this lady is, what an asset she must be on a PNC for people who move on and off, to bring continuity and history and, of course, wisdom to that important function advising the education process in the ACT. Thank you for what you did. Thank you.
Awarded the medal in the General Division, Mr David Richards, for service to the community through charitable initiatives. Mr Richards has brought a great deal of pleasure to the Canberra community through his Christmas lights fundraising endeavours. As a champion for bereaved parents, his efforts are changing perceptions of grief and loss. Mr Richards' dedication and desire to give back to the community is most commendable. Mr David Richards awarded the Medal of the Order.
Here we are. Well done. So it's particularly through the light shows that go at our festival times that you sought to use that sort of vehicle for raising money for kids and SIDS. Kids in ACT, or was it kids?
It's SIDS and kids. It's actually now
SIDS
Red
and-
Nose.
Okay. But the light shows are the ones that have attracted particularly a lot of public attention. You worked with ACTU to help get up the city lights for the Canberra light show, did you?
Yes.
Okay. And the electricity company thanks you for that. But it's wonderful, isn't it, that there is, within the serious matter of uplifting people with very serious illnesses, vulnerable kids, that there is a way to engage the community. And you did it through light shows, which started with you, and then just expanded to now where it's become people doing things because it helps. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Awarded the Medal in the Military Division, Warrant Officer Class 1 Bradley Doyle, for meritorious service as Regimental Sergeant Major of the 1st 19th Battalion, the Royal New South Wales Regiment, as Regimental Sergeant Major of 3rd Battalion, the Royal Australian Regiment, and as Regimental Sergeant Major of Training Task Group 5 on Operation Okra. Warrant Officer Doyle's exemplary service and enforcement of rigorous standards was instrumental in the success of the Australian contribution to coalition operations. His drive, leadership and support to all ranks epitomised his unit's ethos. Warrant Officer Doyle's key role in the preparations for the battalion's victory in the Duke of Gloucester Cup and the devising and evaluating of unit training in 2016 set the foundations for the realisation of battle group level capability. Warrant Officer Class 1 Bradley Doyle awarded the Medal of the Order.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thank you, Mrs. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Let's give me the outside there. Good, we're good. Now, a Regimental Sergeant Major of the Australian Army, there is no more impressive individual wearing a uniform round than a classic RSM type. We heard a little bit about your role within the battalion, 3RAR, to get the troops into a position to win this very keenly fought competition in the Gloucester Cup, held within the infantry part of the regular army. And well done on that. But I'm focusing on Taji 5. These are troops on the training function in Iraq. And these people, of course, are under the ongoing hazard and threat of enemy action. They are conducting a most important task of training the Iraqi security forces to get them ready to take over the security of their own nation. They represent all of us under these circumstances 24/7, and we need always to be proud of them as they conduct themselves as men and women of the Australian Army, and presumably the coalition partners within there too.
Yes, sir.
The Standards man, you've done extremely well. Congratulations.
Thank you. We move now to the Distinguished Service Decorations. Awarded the Distinguished Service Cross, Air Vice Marshal Timothy Innes, for distinguished command and leadership in warlike operations as the Commander Joint Task Force 633 on Operations Okra and High Road from January 2016 to January 2017. Air Vice Marshal Innes demonstrated outstanding commitment and dedication by leading Australia's contribution to operations in Iraq and Afghanistan and more broadly throughout the Middle East region. Air Vice Marshal Innes's operational oversight, leadership, engagement and tireless efforts ensured that the effectiveness of Australia's military contribution and greatly enhanced the international reputation of the Australian Defence Force. Air Vice Marshal Timothy Innes awarded the Distinguished Service Cross.
Hello, Tim. How are you? Looks good there. You had command of the whole of the force in the Middle East for a protracted period, and it was a very active period. And the thing about it is, we in Australia don't hear much about what our people are up to there, because they are now operating in a routine which stretches back a number of years and crosses from one government to a previous government, and we take it for granted. We're not taken for granted by the people of Afghanistan or Iraq and by all of our partners in that magnificent effort we're putting in. It was a particularly brutal time, and we expected our Australian Defence Force people to handle that and deliver what they were doing for the Iraqis and the people of Afghanistan under the command of thorough professionals like the Air Marshal. So you've done extraordinarily well by that force. They thought you were a marvellous commander, and we see you now properly awarded, and we look forward to your further contribution within the Australian Defence Force.
Very much. Awarded the Distinguished Service Medal, Lieutenant Colonel Giles Cornelia, for distinguished leadership in warlike operations as Commanding Officer Training Task Unit of Task Group Taji 5, while deployed on Operation Okra from June 2017 to December 2017. Under Colonel Cornelia's command, the Training Task Unit delivered training to over 3,800 members of the Iraqi security forces. Colonel Cornelia's exceptional leadership, innovation and diligence enabled the implementation of new and highly complex training courses to Iraqi security force units and individuals, resulting in an enduring effect on their warfighting capability. Lieutenant Colonel Giles Cornelia awarded the Distinguished Service Medal.
Morning, Giles.
Good morning, Your Excellency.
As with the Air Marshal, yeah, but you were a bit closer towards the training function, and you were training these Iraqi men, and were there any women? Probably not. No, not at that stage. These were combat troops, and you were wheeling them out the door, and they were going almost straight into action against Daesh. So it was a life and death mission in terms of the quality that you imparted and the esprit and the sense of cohesion that they needed. And they were very successful over time, not without lots of bloodshed from brave people. And you and your troops felt that keenly, and you did a magnificent job. And that was where, if you like, using that old cliche, the rubber hit the road, because that's what we're there for, to train them. And indeed, you train forward air controllers and you train junior leaders. Forward air controllers are people who bring in fighter aircraft onto enemy positions. And this was a bit of a novelty in the sense that up until that time, it had been foreign troops doing that, calling in of the jets and all the rest. And it was started to be translated to Iraqis, and that was most successful. Very good training. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Awarded the Commendation for Distinguished Service, Colonel Michael Bye, for distinguished performance of duties in warlike operations as the Chief Future Plan CJ5 Branch Headquarters Resolute Support, Kabul, Afghanistan, while deployed on Operation High Road over the period December 2016 to November 2017. Colonel Bye's drive and commitment to duty had a direct and positive impact on the performance of the Afghan security forces and significantly enhanced the success of Resolute Support and Operation Freedom Sentinel mission during combat operations in Afghanistan. Colonel Bye's distinguished leadership reflects great credit upon himself, the Australian Army and the Australian Defence Force. Colonel Michael Bye awarded the Commendation for Distinguished Service.
How are you?
Good morning, Your Excellency.
When you got to Kabul, the coalition effort and the Afghan security forces effort to protect Kabul was a bit of a shambles. Just stovepipes and people not talking and running in different directions. And you got them together and you got them to organise and have a plan. And furthermore than that, you actually had to test that plan when there was a major attack, I think around March or so 17, huge attack in Kabul. And your plan not only withstood the test that were put upon them by the adversary, but the reaction was unimaginable to that degree and to that success before you took that whole Kabul area in hand. Well done.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
Cheers.
Awarded the Commendation for Distinguished Service, Major Darren Tyson, for distinguished performance of duties in warlike operations as the Headquarters Task Group Afghanistan Operations Officer and Officer Commanding Force Protection Element 7 in Kabul, while deployed on Operation High Road from January 2017 to September 2017. Major Tyson demonstrated composure and tactical excellence while commanding the Force Protection Element and coordinating all Task Group Afghanistan tactical operations, directly contributing to the success of Australia's mission in Afghanistan. Through his actions, Major Tyson maintained uncompromising force protection standards and significantly enhanced Australia's reputation amongst coalition partners. Major Darren Tyson awarded the Commendation for Distinguished Service.
Hi, Darren. How are you? Congratulations, mate. So whereas the Colonel was a planner and there to make sure that the overall effort was as it should be, you actually had Australian troops who were protecting visitors and providing protection to facilities. So I understand that while you were there, you provided the escort to the United States Secretary of Defence. We're always pleased to do that sort of thing for our allies. And other Australian dignitaries. You were pretty instrumental in the release operations for an Australian hostage. And finally, during the attacks, I referred to one in March and then through to May, where there were major attacks around Kabul, you and your troops had to take a strong hand in ensuring the safety of Australians who were in that area. Well, we're proud of you. Well done to you and your troops.
We move now to the Conspicuous Service Decorations. Awarded the Conspicuous Service Cross, Commander Rachel Jones, for outstanding achievement in the application of exceptional skills as a Command Legal Officer within Headquarters Joint Task Force 633 on Operation Accordion from March 2017 to September 2017. Commander Jones' extraordinary capacity for work and professional knowledge allowed her to comprehensively review and improve all directives, national approval authorities and legal advice to commanders in theatre. Commander Jones developed and implemented an improved process for managing sensitive issues, reporting, and in so doing made an enduring and substantial contribution to the conduct of operations within the Middle East region. Commander Rachel Jones awarded the Conspicuous Service Cross.
Morning, Rachel. How are you?
Well, thank you.
Good. Possibly only you and Colonel Harvey, who was through earlier, and some of the officers in the front row here will understand the complexity but the absolutely essential nature of our legal framework when we're overseas. That every action by a person from the ADF or even people in company with us is legal, proportionate, discriminatory, and above all allows us to hold our heads high, both over there and when we return. It's officers like this lady who, in a way which enables the people who have to do the hard job to do it, but also to do it with advice and guidelines, limitations, and indeed coverage when from time to time we get it wrong. So from that point of view, we thank you for your service. Well done.
Awarded the Conspicuous Service Cross, Captain Cameron Steele, for outstanding achievement as a Commanding Officer HMAS Arunta while deployed on Operation Manitow from November 2016 to July 2017. Captain Steele's leadership has delivered exceptional operational outcomes as part of a combined maritime force in the Arabian Gulf. His pursuit, boarding and searching of smugglers' vessels led to the seizure of 1,390 kilograms of illicit narcotics and established a peerless reputation for his ship among the combined maritime force. Captain Steele's efforts helped combat international terrorism and significantly enhanced Australia's reputation within the Middle East region. Captain Cameron Steele awarded the Conspicuous Service Cross.
Hi, Cameron. How are you? What wasn't quite evident in that citation was that Australia's contribution to that operation, our naval unit that is on patrol there, is regarded on the back of the exploits of people like the crew of the Arunta and predecessor vessels as the absolute go-to vessel on that operation. Amongst the 30 nations or so contributing to that operation, the Australian vessel, its crew, and the way it works are head and shoulders. 1,390 kilograms, a street value of $210 million. You did all of that with 23 boardings, I think, something of that order?
Yes, well, correct.
Yeah. Did you go on any yourself?
A couple.
I would have gone off the other side if you'd have been coming aboard. The point I make is that this is both risky, never-ending, and on the other hand, puts away and takes away people who smuggle drugs, arms and the like, and prevents them from getting to places like Australia. A wonderful contribution, and you're a credit to your ship and to the Navy. Well done.
Awarded the Conspicuous Service Cross, Lieutenant Colonel Margaret Bevan, for outstanding achievement as a Staff Officer Grade 1 Army Gap Year program in planning, establishing and delivering Army Gap Years programs on an annual basis. Colonel Bevan demonstrated exceptional dedication and planning skills while delivering Army's annual Gap Year programs. Her remarkable initiative in developing a successful parallel officers program has provided demonstrable capability to Army's full-time and part-time components. The successful recruitment and retention of a highly competitive target demographic for the Australian Army are testament to Colonel Bevan's outstanding performance. Lieutenant Colonel Margaret Bevan awarded the Conspicuous Service Cross.
Hi, Margaret. How are you? Well done. Cindy. I think you've had one tour of duty in East Timor and multiple tours in Afghanistan.
Yes, correct.
And this gap year program, and I'm looking around seeing youngsters in here who may well want to have a conversation about the gap year. This is to enable people to have a year in the military and then to decide if that's what they want to do or just write it off to good experience and then be great fans of the Army for the rest of their life. That's a very good idea. But you've also introduced a gap year program for officers out of the reserve. Is that how that works?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah. So how many have you had take up on that yet?
Yes, it's in its third year now.
Third year, and would you rate it a successful
It
experiment?
has been tremendous, yes.
And you're still in that program?
I'm just on long service leave prior to retirement.
Give it back. Not at all. You've done a wonderful thing for the Army and your service is appreciated. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Awarded the Conspicuous Service Cross, Lieutenant Colonel Paul Nelson, for outstanding achievement as a Staff Officer Grade 1 Technical Management within Headquarters Forces Command. Colonel Nelson's outstanding commitment and technical expertise have led innovative reform across a number of Army's technical management and maintenance processes, achieving both significant workforce efficiencies and cost savings. Colonel Nelson independently identified opportunities to reform the governance liability surrounding Army equipment. He initiated a trial reform activity which was conservatively calculated to have achieved a reduction of some 40,773 hours of work effort. Lieutenant Colonel Paul Nelson awarded the Conspicuous Service Cross.
No, Paul. There we go. Now, you're into the Army in 1995 and you've had tours of duty in East Timor and Iraq, is that right? Now, you've come into this job where you sort of disappear into the bowels of the machine and you are doing what might be called efficiency work to try to streamline what we do. We heard about the huge number of effort that you've managed to reduce, but there was one other one I noticed which was quite tangible. On what we call non-technical inspections, which must be done and must be done on a timetable, you've managed to achieve savings of $15 million. So you are unseen, but now not unacknowledged. Well done. Congratulations.
Awarded the Conspicuous Service Cross, Brigadier Wade Stothard, for outstanding achievement and significant contributions to the reform and improvement of career management and the Army people capability as Director General, Career Management, Army. Brigadier Stothard made significant contributions to the improvement of career management and Army's people capability through his exceptional leadership and professionalism. Brigadier Stothard's dedication to continued improvement of career management has resulted in lasting benefits for the Australian Army and the Australian Defence Force. Brigadier Wade Stothard awarded the Conspicuous Service Cross.
How are you? Thanks, sir. So you've got quite a collection there now, Brigadier, because you've got the Conspicuous Service Cross, the Distinguished Service Cross for your overseas service. Was that commanding in Oruzgan?
Yes, it was.
And the AM was for?
Service to career management command appointments.
Okay. So a nice collection, but a deeply experienced officer. And being in the career management area is a bit like pushing a wheelbarrow full of frogs. And you do it superbly well. And this is the time for the Army, the Defence Force and Australia to say thank you and keep it up. Obviously, you're having a most distinguished career.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
Awarded the Conspicuous Service Medal, Warrant Officer Class 1 David Hayes, for meritorious devotion to duty as the Assistant Army Attaché, Australian Defence Staff, Jakarta. Warrant Officer Hayes demonstrated commitment, exemplary outputs and superb professionalism as the Assistant Army Attaché over 3 years in Jakarta. Warrant Officer Hayes is to be highly commended for enhancing Army's bilateral relationship with the Indonesian Army, and in particular facilitating senior officer engagement, executing a demanding and complex bilateral exercise schedule, and enhancing intelligence sharing and counter-terrorism training with the Indonesian Army. Warrant Officer Class 1 David Hayes awarded the Conspicuous Service Medal.
Good morning, how are you? When did you enlist? 96?
96, sir.
Okay. Multiple deployments to Afghanistan?
Sir.
And this is, of course, for your time in Jakarta, Selamat Datang. And I note there that particularly your contribution has been to harmonise to the degree both countries are comfortable between our CT forces, their tactics, their operations and that sort of thing, and that done by, I guess, Kopassus or Gagana 9 or whatever the forces were on the Indonesian side, who were technically a bit like our people. And that's a marvellous job because we are inextricably linked and forever will be with our neighbours in Indonesia. So that Herculean labour will go on and on and on. But in particular, I think you moved beyond that and linked up, as may be appropriate, between our defence intelligence agencies and the equivalent in the TNI, in the Indonesian military. And that marks you down as an absolute professional, and we thank you for your effort.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
We move now to the Meritorious Service Awards. Awarded the Public Service Medal, Dr Gary Dolman, for outstanding public service in the leadership of research and contribution to national economic reform in the areas of infrastructure, transport and regional economics. Dr Dolman is a distinguished leader in economic analysis and data collection and provision. His work enables Australian Government to make informed decisions on our long-term infrastructure needs. Additionally, he's played a role internationally on transport emissions, congestion analysis and road pricing. Dr Dolman's dedication to improving the outcomes in analysis and decision-making for infrastructure projects funding is most noteworthy. Dr Gary Dolman awarded the Public Service Medal.
Good morning, Gary. How are you?
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Now, didn't you lead the Bureau of Economics and you give me that economics, regional...
Infrastructure, regional economics. Sorry, I've got it wrong now too. Bureau
We'll get there.
Infrastructure, transport and regional economics.
But more importantly than that for the group today, because that is a job that obviously attaches to your professional skill, you've become a very highly regarded figure within the OECD organisation for your expertise in that regard. So that's a fantastic thing to think that a pinnacle organisation like the OECD reaches out to somebody like you as somebody to help. So do you attend many overseas conferences in that regard, or have you recently?
Not so much recently, but I have attended a number, and it's good to be able to share Australian expertise with other countries.
Yeah, well, we're a vast continent with reasonably poor in infrastructure, so we can speak about all the things we're doing to improve that, and you're at the centre of all that. When did you join the public service?
1990.
There you go. Been around a while.
Ago.
Congratulations. Please keep it up. Cheers.
Awarded the Public Service Medal, Mrs Lois Ransom, for outstanding public service through the strengthening of Australia's plant biosecurity system. Mrs Ransom has devoted her career of over 30 years to strengthening Australia's plant biosecurity system and has been influential both nationally and internationally. Mrs Ransom's work has resulted in a substantial legacy of strengthened biosecurity systems for managing the risk that exotic plant pests and diseases pose to Australia. Mrs Lois Ransom awarded the Public Service Medal.
Good morning. Oh, there we go. All good. Now, you're chair of the International Plant Protection Convention.
I have been.
Is that a standing arrangement?
It rotates. I had 2 years and then it rotated to Mexico.
Okay. One of the many strategies you're looking at is the fruit fly strategy. You've done work with New Zealand. I guess they're a nation themselves deeply concerned about biosecurity.
Absolutely.
And you've been our lead person there. And you have been involved in this area for a number of years. What started you off?
Well, I'm a plant pathologist by training,
Yep.
so a plant doctor, I'm a layperson.
Yeah.
And it just went from there. So just trying to make a difference.
Well, thank you very much for your service. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Awarded the Australian Police Medal, Detective Superintendent Jason Kennedy, for distinguished service to the Australian Federal Police, particularly in the area of community policing within the Australian Capital Territory. Detective Superintendent Kennedy has served with distinction for over 25 years. In particular, he is recognised for his achievements within the Australian Capital Territory. Additionally, he has undertaken several deployments overseas. We are indebted to Detective Superintendent Kennedy for his professionalism and his service. Detective Superintendent Jason Kennedy awarded the Australian Police Medal.
How are you?
Good, thanks.
That's good, Jason. There we go. That's good. So you entered the AFP in the 90s, did you?
Yep.
And became a detective in 01, is that right?
98.
98. And then superintendent a while ago. But in the meantime, you went to Cyprus in 02. I think you might have been a superintendent, Senate
Sergeant back then.
sergeant when you went. And you've also assisted in the aftermath of one of the Bali bombings.
2002.
The one that sort of took our innocence away. And you were up there for a while. And you've also had I know this is all to do mostly with your policing role here in the ACT, but at the national level you were looking at professional standards and some intelligence issues as well.
Yep.
And well, here you are in your uniform, but you are a great servant of this community, and we thank you very much. We thank all police through you.
Thanks, sir.
Well done.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the presentations this morning, and I now invite the Governor-General to speak.
I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, the Ngunnawal people. I pay my respects to the elders, past and present, and to elders from other communities who may be with us today. And good morning to you all, and thank you for sitting patiently while we had those privileged moments with those being invested today. The ceremony recognises those who, through their determination and commitment and compassion, have made an exceptional contribution to Australia. You know, it's one of the great privileges of Governor-General to be able to preside at investitures, to see those being honoured, to meet them, to meet their families, and learn a little bit more about their life and achievements. So on behalf of all of the others, today I offer each recipient our deepest congratulations, our admiration and our respect. I, like everyone here, and those where you live, perhaps watching this telecast on a webcast, we're all impressed and inspired by what you do. And I think we're all reassured that Australia is in good hands and full of extraordinary people who go that extra mile, not for personal gain or self-promotion, but for others and for Australia. We as a nation are fortunate to benefit from your passion and your skills and your dedication. And isn't it fitting that today you've been honoured by our honours system? I say to all those today invested, you officially join the company of men and women whose actions have enriched our community and our lives and who have been recognised in our past. You remain as you entered the room, and now even more so, your role models for future generations. You'll show them what is possible. You have a commitment to excellence and to your fellow citizens that's something we revere and admire. And it's been evident to me, with the best standing position in the House, to see the pride on the faces of family and friends who are here sharing the occasion. On behalf of all Australians, I thank you for your contribution. Remember, this is a day when Australia said, you are unique, you are exceptional. Congratulations and well done.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned earlier, anyone can nominate a fellow Australian. It's easy to do by accessing our online nomination form on the Governor-General's website. You never know, they may even receive an award at a ceremony similar to this one in the future. I now invite today's recipients to join their Excellencies for photographs on the state entrance stairs and for other guests to remain seated briefly while the recipients and their Excellencies leave. Thank you and a very good morning.